Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's fairy tale. I see you've got the fire going. My name is Charles Fernwood, and I'll be your narrator for this evening. You might remember me from such fairytale audiobooks as Snow White and 3½ Men. Tonight, I will be narrating the story of Shane. Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, actually it was just near Footscray, there lived a boy named Shane. Like many fairy tale heroes, he was born an orphan, an especially ugly orphan. In fact, so ugly his foster mother put him forward for the feature film The Ugly Duckling, however was beaten to the punch by a young Tracy Grimshaw. His first foster mother was a kind woman who lived in a shoe. Unfortunately, Child Services took Shane away after a life-threatening case of tinea. For a few years, Shane lived in a foster home on a hill with his new parents, Jacques and Gilles. Jacques was a gingerbread man. In other words, he was a red nut and a baker. As Shane's hormones naturally raged with growth, he began asking questions about his pee-pee. So reluctantly there was Jack and the sex talk. Unfortunately, Jack turned out to be a runaway criminal that the police couldn't seem to catch because he was the gingerbread man. Probably because no one wants to run after a dirty ranger. In fear, Shane ventured off on his own. Without a strong role model, Shane turned to petty crime, stealing bowls of porridge, magic beans, and iPods. However, his life would change one day when he met a beautiful princess. Her name was Sleeping Beauty. She was a narcoleptic. Now, because she was prone to falling asleep at the drop of a hat, her mother locked her up in a tower where she would be no danger to herself. Consequently, she spent most of her waking time playing Nintendo. It earned her her nickname, the Princess and the Wii. Every day he went to the tower in the small medieval village of Werribee to talk to the princess. Sick of the stench and a life alone, the princess let down her hair and told Shane to climb it. Shane's attempts were futile due to his lack of upper body strength. After trying thrice, he proclaimed in a heroic voice, fuck this, I steal magic beans for a living." So he planted the beans, and instantly a green fireman's pole sprouted from the soil up to the princess's window. The princess slid down the pole, just slow enough that Shane could get an upskirt photo on his stolen iPhone. They embraced, they kissed, and everything was joyful. Shane instantly fell in love with the fair princess, whose real name happened to be Sharon. In good courting form, he asked her on a date to the movies. They saw Three Blind Mice. Boy, that movie was a sight to see. Everything was going well, so Sharon decided to go back to Shane's place so he could explore into her woods. As Shane turned the music on, Sharon waited nakedly in the bed. Shane was quick to mention, "Oh my, what big boobs you have!" She replied, "All the better to milk with, my dear." Shane promptly undid his belt buckle and revealed his lying Pinocchio. She was not a tiger in the bed, but rather a wolf. They then proceeded to make a sex tape, which after being leaked on the net was entitled Puss in Boots, Tale of a Dominatrix. 9 months later, triplets were born. Their names were Hansel, Gretel, and Shanae. As the triplets grew up, they would often run off into the woods, or in the case of Shanae, the hoods. Sharon made sure to give Hansel and Gretel a bag of breadcrumbs so they would always know their way home. Hansel was a fat little shit. He ate every last breadcrumb. Consequently, on one of their expeditions, Hansel and Gretel got lost in the woods. Unfortunately for them, Hansel and Gretel stumbled upon the great gingerbread home of Matt Preston, who proceeded to boil the children, wrap them in cravats, and eat them whole. Alas, Shanae became their only child. Shane and Sharon were distraught at their loss, but found solace in the fact their children were mistakes in the first place. Shanae became a recluse. She became obsessed with Australian indie music, specifically the band entitled Little Red. She would listen to them all day as she rode her horse through the ghetto. It earned her her nickname, Little Red Riding Hood. And so ends this tale. Stay tuned for the next fairy tale adventure, the critically acclaimed Rapunzel and the Twin Towers. If I was going to rate it out of 11, I'd give it a 9. Until next time, I'm Charles Fernwood. Good night.